This is the situation that imagine for a second that you become homeless and no one cares about you and everyone blames you for being a terrorist or something and they close their doors. This is exactly what Syrian refugees and refugees in the rest of the world are going through.
Malala Yousafzai is a global advocate for millions of children worldwide who are being denied a formal education because of social, economic, legal, and political factors. Growing up in the Swat district of northwest Pakistan, from an early age she actively spoke out against the Taliban's efforts to oppress women's most basic rights to education. As Malala gained public awareness, the Taliban attempted to assassinate her on October 9, 2012. After several months of intensive care, she went on to co-found the Malala Fund, empowering girls to raise their voices and bringing awareness to the social and economic impact of girls' education. She's been recognized with numerous accolades and awards for her work as a global activist, including a Nobel Peace Prize she received in 2014. She's been appointed as the youngest ever United Nations Messenger of Peace, and she recently became the 6th and youngest person to receive an honorary Canadian citizenship. For this episode of Broadly Voices, we sat down with 19-year-old Malala at the United Nations in New York City to hear about her recent work with refugees and about her new global tour, the Girl Power Trip, which launched in early April of 2017.
Malala, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. You're starting your Girl Power Tour. So can you tell me a little bit about what that trip is and what you're hoping to accomplish?
So through the Girl Power Tour, I'm hoping to visit different parts of the world, whether it's like Latin America or Middle East, and I want to make sure that I find the incredible girls who can bring change in their communities. I want to encourage them, and that I was also just like them, living in a small valley, and when my rights were taken away, I spoke out. So it is their turn now that when something wrong is happening in their community, they need to speak out, they need to raise their voices. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm hoping that we would find advocates, would find champions, inspiring girls who can bring change in their communities.
You know, I think one of the biggest things that resonated from some of the things I've heard you say is how your father never clipped your wings. And Gloria Steinem, who is a huge advocate for women's rights, and I know a big fan of yours, has spoken about the world as sort of a bird with two wings, and when one is broken, it can't fly. And that one wing is obviously women's equality. And you know, the Women's March happened in January all over the world, and I wonder, what is your message now for some of those women? What would you direct them to do?
So for me, women rights, women equality is really important. And for that, men also need to realize their responsibilities and how they can play a role. And I think men should be very proud to call themselves feminist, and they need to take part in it because it is about their daughters, it is about their sisters. So my father, he did not clip my wings. He let me fly. He let me do what I wanted, and I'm really proud of that. And I'll always be thankful to him. But now it's time that more men get involved in this. And to women, I would say that they must believe in themselves. Their role is crucial, especially right now. And women need to unite. They need to take action themselves. I always say that we don't have to wait for someone else to bring change. We have to step forward. So I'm focused on education, and I think there are many other aspects that women can work on. And I think if we work on all these aspects, we can see that women will achieve that equality.
Absolutely, and I mean, I think one of the biggest issues is that women's issues are still ghettoized and seen as a niche issue, but you're dealing with half of the world's population, and we're not addressing normalized violence against women. We're not talking about how education plays such a role in that. But obviously, one of the issues that we're thinking about in the United States is President Trump decided to reinstate the global gag rule, which has an implication in foreign countries related to funds that have to deal with health services of a variety of things. But I'm wondering, you know, what impact you think that might have on education or women's rights as those funds are potentially pulled.
I think there are a lot of policies about the new president that are a bit scary, including ban on majority Muslim countries and things related to like abortion rights and other things. And I think it's important that women stand united, as they did in Women's March, and they stood up and they raised their voice. And I think we shouldn't stop. We shouldn't stop raising our voice.
Has he or anyone from his administration reached out to you to try and hear your thoughts? And if you did, would you take the meeting?
Well, if an opportunity comes to meet Donald Trump, I would definitely meet him. And I think he needs to keep in mind that I would be speaking out for girls, and I don't hesitate in saying what I feel. And when I go to such meetings, I just imagine for a second that it's not me, it's those hundreds and thousands of girls I have met in the refugee camps that are speaking out. I think the most important thing for president is to understand what a life is like when you are a refugee, when you are living in these camps. And I think he should go and visit these refugee camps and see the real life situations when you don't have any hope, when you don't have the opportunity to get education, when you don't have access to health, when you don't have a luxury life. That is the real life of refugee people. And once you see that, then you will realize why these people need a safer, a better area to live in.
What do you think the United States should do in a situation like Syria?
I think in the United States, there should be very clever people who are ruling and who are governing the whole country. That's what you would expect. And I hope there are people who would understand the short-term effects and the long-run effects. And I think it's important that in Syria, they try to understand the real-life situation of people. I have been to refugee camps, and I have met Syrian refugee children. I know what life is like living in a tent. And when you talk to these young girls and children, their dream is to go back to their country, to see peace. They have the same dreams as us. They want to become doctors, teachers, engineers. You meet their parents. They had also been teachers. They had been engineers. They are just people like us. And the United States, they need to realize that war and weapons is not the solution. On one hand, you send army and you choose war, but then on the other hand, you don't welcome the innocent people who are affected the most. So in that case, I would say like welcoming refugees is the most important thing. You need to welcome them, you need to support them. They're in millions, and if people ignore them, we will lose a generation.
From your personal experience, do you think the United States can be helpful in areas like healthcare and education in conflicts like Pakistan and Syria?
I think the US can play a big role in bringing world peace if the US decides to. And in that, it is important that they have investment in education especially, because in Pakistan and Afghanistan and many other countries, we have seen US intervention before, but that is in the form of wars, and now we need investment in these countries through education, through health investment. I think that is how countries can go forward. And if there is terrorism in one country, then that is not limited to that one country, then it affects the whole world. So it should be taken as a global cause. Education and health and helping to improve the standards of living of all people should become a global cause. We should not have divisions. We should consider each other as brothers and sisters and try to help each other, because helping one community would help the whole world. It would bring better lives to all of us. And then I also think that we should not just fully be dependent on the US. All the other countries also must stand together and unite for investing in the regions in which support and help is needed for the deprived people and communities.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us today, Malala.